High Admiral Zextal's command center had fallen silent. The mighty Eternal Dawn, pride of the Calaxian fleet, drifted powerless in space, its quantum core reduced to little more than a glorified battery. Around him, his officers stared at useless displays, their certainty in Calaxian superiority crumbling with each passing moment. Strategic Officer Mira broke the silence first. High Admiral, we're receiving reports from across the fleet. 20% of our ships have lost all contact with their fighter squadrons. Another 30% report their crews are experiencing temporal disconnection. Explain, Zextal demanded, though his voice had lost its earlier authority. Time itself appears to be unstable within the battle zone. Some ships report minutes passing while others experience hours. Coordination between vessels has become impossible. Sensor Chief Kral's tentacles trembled as he worked his console. The human vessels are still phase-shifting through multiple quantum states. But there's something else. He paused, his primary eyes widening. They're not just using technology we don't understand. They're using principles we never knew existed. The tactical display showed the human battleship Prometheus, seemingly splitting into multiple versions of itself, each one as real as the others. Calaxian sensors couldn't determine which was the true vessel because, in some fundamental way, they all were. High Admiral, Communications Officer Vena interrupted. We're receiving transmissions from several fleet captains. They're requesting permission to surrender. Zextal's facial ridges contorted in shock. In 50,000 years of Calaxian history, no fleet commander had ever surrendered. The very concept was alien to their military doctrine. Cowards, he snarled. I'll have them executed for. Sir, Mira cut in, her voice steady despite the breach in protocol. I've been analyzing the human attack patterns. They're not trying to destroy us. They could have annihilated our fleet the moment we arrived. Instead, they're systematically dismantling our capabilities while keeping casualties to a minimum. The realization hit Zextal like a physical blow. The humans weren't just defeating them. They were conducting a demonstration. Every move they made showed not just superior technology, but superior understanding. Admiral Chen is transmitting again, Vena reported. Put it through, Zextal ordered, his voice hollow. Your fleet is effectively neutralized, High Admiral. Chen's calm voice filled the command center. Your quantum technology will remain regressed for approximately one standard Earth week. This should give you time to reflect on the consequences of threatening a species you didn't fully understand. Kral's console suddenly lit up. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures. The humans are. They're reconfiguring space itself around their ships. On the tactical display, the 3 human battleships began to alter the very fabric of reality around them. Space curved and folded, creating what appeared to be localized regions where normal physics simply didn't apply. What you're seeing, Chen continued, is what we call a Klein space manifold. We've modified the topology of local spacetime to create regions where our ships can exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Your sensors register this as multiple vessels because, in a very real sense, they are all equally real. Mira's tentacles moved across her console frantically. The mathematical principles behind this, they're completely outside our theoretical framework. Our most advanced quantum physics can't even describe what we're seeing. That's the point, Strategic Officer Mira, Chen replied, surprising them by knowing who she was addressing. Your empire's greatest weakness isn't your technology. It's your certainty that you've reached the limits of what's possible. The command center fell silent again as the implications sank in. The Calaxian Empire had spent millennia believing they were at the pinnacle of scientific achievement. Now they faced a species that treated their most advanced technology as primitive, who could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality with casual ease. Your empire stands at a crossroads, High Admiral, Chen continued. You can retreat, rethink your assumptions about humanity and the universe itself, or you can force us to demonstrate even more advanced capabilities. The choice is yours, but know this, What you've seen today represents less than a fraction of our true technological capacity. Standard Imperial Combat Doctrine, exactly as the Arcturus Archive predicted. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Calaxians had no idea that humanity had discovered the ruins of their ancient rivals centuries ago, complete with detailed tactical databases. While they'd spent millennia becoming complacent in their superiority, humanity had been learning from the mistakes of fallen empires. All ships, execute Operation Thunderbolt, Chen commanded. Remember your training. Today we show them why humanity never stopped preparing for this moment. The Prometheus and its sister ships, Athena and Helios, activated their quantum phase drives simultaneously. To the Calaxian sensors, it would appear as if the three vessels had shattered into hundreds of identical copies, each one as real as the original. It was humanity's first demonstration of full quantum superposition at a macroscopic scale. Across the void, High Admiral Zextal's flagship launched its first volley of antimatter torpedoes. The weapons, powerful enough to shatter moons, passed harmlessly through the quantum-phased human vessels. "Return fire," Chen ordered. "Show them what real quantum weaponry can do." The Prometheus's main gun activated, drawing power directly from the quantum foam of space itself. A beam of concentrated probability collapsed the wave functions of everything in its path. Calaxian shields, designed to stop energy and matter, were useless against weapons that rewrote local physics. "Direct hit on their command ship," Jackson reported. "Their quantum shields are." "High Admiral, you need to see this." The tactical display showed something unprecedented. The Calaxian flagship shields hadn't failed. They had been retroactively erased from existence. The ship itself remained intact, but every piece of quantum technology aboard had been reduced to its most primitive possible state. "They're transmitting," Communications Officer Rodriguez announced. The High Admiral sounds disturbed. "Put it through," Chen ordered. "What sorcery is this?" Zextal's voice cracked with fear and rage. "What have you done to our ships?" "We call it quantum regression," Chen replied calmly. "Your zero-point energy cores now operate at the efficiency of chemical rockets. Your quantum computers have been reduced to binary systems. Welcome to technological equality, High Admiral." The Calaxian fleet's formation began to break as more ships fell victim to the regression beams. Vessels that had relied entirely on advanced quantum technology found themselves operating with the equivalent of 20th century Earth technology. "Impossible," Zextal sputtered. "No species could develop such weapons without us detecting their research." "That's where you made your fundamental mistake," Chen explained. "You assumed any advanced research would follow your methods, use your tools, operate by your rules. Humanity took a different path. While you were looking for quantum energy signatures, we learned to hide in the gaps between probabilities. While you built bigger ships, we learned to fold space itself. The human strike craft demonstrated this by seemingly teleporting through Calaxian point defense fire, appearing inside their formation. Each small vessel carried enough computational power to calculate and exploit microscopic natural wormholes, turning Calaxian tactical doctrine into a deadly liability. "Last chance, High Admiral," Chen offered. "You can retreat with your fleet mostly intact, or we can demonstrate why humanity's research into quantum mechanics ended with us discovering how to weaponize uncertainty itself." The Calaxian fleet hung in space, their mighty warships reduced to floating hulks of metal and crystal, their advanced weapons nothing more than elaborate paperweights. High Admiral Zextal faced a choice that would define his species' future: admit defeat or learn exactly how far humanity had progressed beyond the physics his people thought they had mastered. The silence stretched out across the battlefield as both sides waited to see if pride would prove stronger than wisdom. In that moment, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted irreversibly, and the age of unquestioned Calaxian dominance came to an end, not with an apocalyptic battle, but with the quiet humiliation of watching their most advanced technology fail against an enemy they had gravely underestimated. The Calaxian Empire's mighty fleet hung paralyzed in space, their quantum technology reduced to primitive circuitry. But High Admiral Zextol wasn't ready to admit defeat. Pride in centuries of assumed superiority died hard. "Launch all fighter squadrons," he commanded. "If our quantum weapons are useless, we'll overwhelm them with numbers. Even their remarkable technology can't be everywhere at once." 10,000 fighter craft poured from the Calaxian carrier ships, their conventional drives pushing them toward the human vessels. It would have been an impressive sight if anyone could have seen them all. Entire squadrons of Calaxian fighters simply vanished from sensors. Others found themselves flying in directions they hadn't chosen, their pilots reporting impossible sensor readings and contradictory navigation data. Aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Chen watched the chaos unfold with quiet satisfaction. "Activate the Ghost Protocol," she ordered. "Let's show them why we named our stealth system after Earth's quantum physics pioneers." Throughout the battlefield, hundreds of hidden human stealth platforms activated their Heisenberg arrays. Space itself seemed to blur as uncertainty principles were amplified to macroscopic levels. Calaxian pilots found themselves unable to determine both their position and velocity simultaneously, their advanced targeting systems rendered useless by fundamental physics. "The Schrödinger nets are online," Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported. "Quantum entanglement field is stable." The human fleet seemed to both exist and not exist simultaneously, appearing in multiple locations at once, while remaining impossible to target. What the Calaxians couldn't know was that humanity had learned to weaponize quantum superposition decades ago, turning their ships into probability clouds that could only be resolved by observation. Observation their enemies could no longer make. "Status of the Einstein-Rosen deployment?" Chen asked. "The micro-wormhole network is complete," Rodriguez confirmed. "We have tactical FTL coverage of the entire battlefield." This was humanity's true advantage, not just advanced technology, but the fundamental reimagining of how space warfare could be fought. While the Calaxians had built ever larger ships and more powerful weapons, humanity had learned to treat space itself as a weapon and shield simultaneously. A group of Calaxian fighters discovered this the hard way when they attempted to launch missiles at what appeared to be the Prometheus. Their weapons passed through the apparent vessel only to emerge from micro-wormholes in the midst of their own formation. "Message from High Admiral Zextol," Rodriguez announced. "He's demanding an explanation." Chen nodded. "Put him through." "What manner of devilry is this?" Zextol's voice shook with rage and fear. "You violate every law of physics. Your ships appear and disappear at will. You turn our own weapons against us. We don't violate the laws of physics, High Admiral," Chen interrupted calmly. "We simply understand them better than you do. Your empire spent millennia believing you had reached the pinnacle of scientific understanding. Humanity kept asking questions, kept pushing boundaries." She gestured to her tactical display, where Calaxian fighters continued to disappear into probability clouds only to emerge hopelessly lost and disoriented. "Your pilots are experiencing what we call quantum fog," she explained. The uncertainty principle expanded to tactical scale. They can either know where they are or where they're going, but not both. A basic problem in quantum mechanics that your empire never thought to weaponize. "Impossible," Zextol whispered. "The energy requirements alone would be astronomical using your technology," Chen agreed. "But we don't use zero-point energy like you do. We learn to harvest quantum fluctuations directly from the vacuum of space. Every cubic meter of seemingly empty space contains enough energy to power our entire fleet, if you know how to access it." The battle, if it could still be called that, had become a demonstration of just how far humanity had advanced beyond conventional physics. Calaxian ships found themselves trapped in temporal eddies, their chronometers showing different times. Communication became impossible as quantum entanglement fields scrambled their transmissions. "The ghost of Werner Heisenberg would be proud," Jackson commented with a small smile. "Though I doubt he ever imagined his uncertainty principle would be used quite like this." Chen watched as another squadron of Calaxian fighters vanished into a probability cloud. The pioneers of quantum mechanics laid the groundwork for everything we've achieved. While the Calaxians were building bigger guns, we were studying the Copenhagen interpretation and many worlds theory. They never understood that true power lies not in forcing reality to obey you, but in understanding its fundamental nature. The remains of the once mighty Calaxian fleet drifted in confusion, their formations shattered, their technology reduced to primitive electronics, their fighters lost in quantum fog. They had come expecting to find a primitive species barely worthy of notice. Instead, they had found humanity at its most sophisticated, masters not just of technology, but of reality itself. High Admiral Zextol of the Calaxian Empire stood aboard the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, his primary eyes fixed on the holographic display while his secondary pair monitored the fleet status readouts. 10,000 warships stretched before him, their crystalline hulls refracting starlight in a dazzling display of power. Each vessel represented centuries of Calaxian engineering, powered by zero-point energy cores that lesser species could only dream of harnessing. "Status report on the human defense grid," he commanded, his throat sacs pulsing with authority. Strategic Officer Mira's tentacles danced across her console. "Primitive, High Admiral. Their orbital platforms rely on particle beam technology we mastered 3 centuries ago. Ground-based defense systems appear to use nuclear-powered laser arrays, nothing that can penetrate our quantum shields." Zextol's facial ridges flexed in what his species considered a smile. The humans had been warned. When they refused to submit to Calaxian authority and continued their unauthorized expansion into space, they sealed their fate. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. These upstart primates would learn their place. "Launch the first wave," he ordered. Standard subjugation pattern. 2,000 ships surged forward, their drives painting purple streaks across the void. The human defense grid remained silent, passive. Almost too passive. "High Admiral," Sensor Chief Krell interrupted, "I'm detecting unusual quantum fluctuations from Earth's direction. The readings, they don't match any known signature." "Elaborate," Zextol demanded, his secondary eyes narrowing. "It's as if space itself is being folded, but that's impossible at this scale without." A flash of light brighter than a supernova erupted between the Calaxian first wave and Earth. When it faded, 3 massive vessels hung in the void. Their design defied conventional spaceship architecture. They seemed to phase in and out of reality itself, their hulls rippling like liquid metal. "Unknown vessels," Communications Officer Venna announced, broadcasting on all frequencies in perfect Calaxian. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered restricted space. The next violation of our territory will be considered an act of war. This is your only warning." Zextol's facial ridges contorted in rage. "They dare. All ships, open." The order died in his throat as his sensor displays exploded with warnings. The human vessels were emanating power readings that broke every law of physics the Calaxians had discovered. Their hulls seemed to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, and their weapon systems. "Impossible," Mira whispered. "They're generating artificial quantum singularities. Their weapons don't just pierce shields. They ignore them completely by operating on fundamental forces we didn't know could be manipulated." "High Admiral," Krell's voice shook, "I'm detecting thousands of smaller signatures emerging from hyperspace. They're everywhere." The space around the Calaxian fleet erupted with emergence points as hundreds of human strike craft materialized. Unlike their larger cousins, these vessels were sleek, predatory, and undeniably built for war. Their hulls bore scars and kill markers. These weren't untested weapons, but battle-proven hunters. "The humans are transmitting again," Venna reported. "Your understanding of physics is incomplete, your technology obsolete, and your tactics predictable. We've been waiting for someone like you to make this mistake. The question is, how many of your people are you willing to sacrifice to learn just how wrong you are about humanity's capabilities?" For the first time in his 300-year military career, High Admiral Zextal felt fear. The humans hadn't been hiding in fear or failing to advance. They had been waiting, watching, and preparing. And now, as he watched their impossible ships move with casual disregard for what he had thought were the immutable laws of physics, he realized his empire had made a catastrophic mistake. The battle that followed would forever change the galaxy's understanding of humanity. But more importantly, it would teach the Galaxian Empire a lesson that countless species before them had learned the hard way. Never mistake humanity's patience for weakness or their quietness for fear. The quantum battleship Prometheus hung in space like a waiting thunderstorm, its reality-warping hull casting strange shadows across the void. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the Galaxian fleet's formation through quantum-entangled sensors that made light speed lag a thing of the past. Her bridge crew, hand-picked veterans of a dozen silent wars humanity, had fought beyond known space, maintained perfect discipline despite the tension. They're deploying into attack formation Delta. Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported from his tactical station. Zextal looked around his command center, seeing the same realization dawn in the eyes of his officers. They had come to subjugate what they thought was a primitive species. Instead, they had encountered beings who had transcended conventional physics itself. The breaking point wasn't just military. It was psychological, philosophical, and cultural. For the first time in Galaxian history, a High Admiral faced not just defeat, but the complete shattering of everything his civilization believed about their place in the universe. As he watched another squadron of fighters vanish into a quantum probability field, Zextal realized that the galaxy would never be the same after this day. 2 days after the battle that changed galactic history, High Admiral Zextal stood aboard the Prometheus, experiencing something no Galaxian military commander had faced in 50,000 years, a peace negotiation from a position of weakness. The human vessel's interior defied Galaxian understanding, with corridors that seemed to exist in multiple spatial configurations simultaneously and gravity that adjusted itself to each visitor's native preference without any visible technology. Admiral Chen had arranged a conference room that adapted to Galaxian physiology, though Zextal suspected this was less about comfort and more about demonstrating human technological superiority. His small delegation included Mira and Krell, whose scientific curiosity had overwhelmed their military discipline. Your civilization stands at a crossroads. Chen began, her holographic displays showing the status of the defeated Galaxian fleet. But this doesn't have to end in humiliation or destruction. We believe there's a better way forward. You've demonstrated your superiority clearly, Zextal acknowledged, his pride giving way to pragmatism. What are your terms? Chen smiled, but it wasn't the expression of a victor gloating over the defeated. We propose an exchange. Your empire has 50,000 years of cultural and scientific development that humanity would be eager to learn from. In return, we offer something your people have lost: the capacity to question, to wonder, to imagine what might be possible beyond what you think you know. The holographic display shifted to show various human scientific installations, vast quantum computing arrays that existed in probability clouds, research stations that bent space-time around themselves, and ships that traveled through dimensions the Galaxians hadn't known existed. Your civilization's greatest achievement wasn't your technology, Chen continued. It was creating stability across thousands of worlds for millennia. Humanity has much to learn from that. But somewhere along the way, you stopped pushing boundaries. You stopped asking, what if? Mira's tentacles moved with barely contained excitement as she studied the displays. These principles, they completely rewrite our understanding of quantum mechanics. The mathematical foundations alone would revolutionize our scientific community. Precisely, Chen nodded. And that's just the beginning. We've detected evidence of ancient quantum phenomena that even we don't fully understand. Imagine what our civilizations could discover together. Krall, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke. The regression effect on our quantum technology. It's beginning to fade, just as you predicted. The precision of that effect suggests an understanding of temporal mechanics far beyond anything in our records. Time itself is more complex than either of our civilizations initially believed, Chen explained. What you experienced wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a controlled demonstration of quantum temporal mechanics. We could have permanently disabled your technology. Instead, we chose to show you that there's still so much more to learn. Zextal felt the weight of history on his shoulders. His decisions in this room would determine not just the future of the conflict, but the very direction of Galaxian civilization. And if we agree to this exchange, he asked, what guarantees do we have? The same guarantee that's kept humanity pushing forward. The understanding that the universe is vast, mysterious, and full of wonders we have yet to discover, Chen replied. We're offering you a chance to remember what it feels like to stand at the edge of knowledge and take a step forward into the unknown. The display shifted again, showing a proposal for joint research initiatives, cultural exchange programs, and collaborative space exploration projects. It was more than a peace treaty. It was an invitation to evolution. Your people were right about one thing, Chen continued. The galaxy needs order, stability, and guidance. But it also needs innovation, curiosity, and the courage to question established truths. Together, we could provide both. As Zextal studied the proposal, he realized that humanity had achieved something far more impressive than military victory. They had found a way to turn conflict into opportunity, to transform defeat into a chance for growth. The humans hadn't just outfought them, they had outthought them, showing wisdom that matched their power. The universe is larger than either of our civilizations imagined, Chen concluded. We've detected quantum echoes of things that existed before either of our species evolved, phenomena that challenge both our understandings of reality. This is your chance to be explorers again, to rediscover the joy of asking what lies beyond. In that moment, Zextal understood that this was humanity's true strength. Not their advanced technology, not their mastery of quantum mechanics, but their ability to see beyond conflict to possibility. They had defeated his fleet not to destroy or humiliate, but to create an opportunity for something greater. As he prepared to accept the proposal, Zextal realized that this wasn't the end of Galaxian greatness. It was the beginning of something far more significant. Together, their civilizations would push the boundaries of what was possible, venturing into realms of science and understanding that neither could reach alone. The dawn of understanding had arrived, and with it, the promise of a future limited only by imagination itself.